Hey everyone, it's Mack from LaughingPlace.com. Spider-Man No Way Home still has fans buzzing after its theatrical debut, and that got me thinking about all of the other Spider-Man films that came before it. There have been a lot of great movies, and some not so great ones, based on everyone's favorite wall-crawling, web-slinging, day-saving hero, and I'm going to do my best to rank them. Starting with number 9, Spider-Man 3. Yeah, no surprise here. This movie has been the butt of a number of jokes over the years, including ones made by some of the other movies on this list. Spider-Man 3 essentially became a template for what not to do with a superhero film. It was crowded with too many villains and messy storylines, and perhaps worst of all, the worst butchering of a beloved character from the comics. Admittedly, upon recently revisiting this film, I did really enjoy the first act. Unfortunately, it all goes downhill from there. Number 8. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The only other film that could possibly be considered for the last spot on this list, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 gets a slight bump for not terribly mishandling Venom. Still, we did get a couple of poorly developed villains and a rushed storyline about Peter's parents. I also stand by my opinion that, despite his recent surge in popularity, Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man but not a great Peter Parker. The big positive to take away from this film is ironically the death of Gwen Stacy, which was so incredibly emotional and well acted by everyone involved. Number 7. The Amazing Spider-Man. Aside from some bad CGI used to create the primary antagonist of this film, this is a big step up from the previous two films on this list. The debut of Garfield's Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man was our first look at the character not portrayed by Tobey Maguire on the big screen. While there was still a lot of love for Tobey's take, fans were delighted to see a Spidey that actually quips and has that playful attitude. Plus, the introduction of Gwen Stacy was exciting for us comic fans, even if we knew what was coming. Number 6. Spider-Man. I'll be honest, it hurts a little to not have the film that started it all higher on this list, but there are just too many great Spider-Man movies. After X-Men kicked off the superhero movie craze in 2000, Spider-Man took it to the next level. We got some great performances in this movie, not just from Maguire, but also from Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn. Unfortunately, we also got a very strange choice for the character design on the Green Goblin, who looked like a Power Rangers villain and not one of the good ones. Number 5. Spider-Man Homecoming. It's no surprise that Spider-Man's MCU appearances are all going to be near the top of this list, as the franchise has been the gold standard in superhero movies. We all love Tom Holland's appearance as Peter Parker in Captain America Civil War, but seeing him get to really develop the character in his first solo outing was something special. While Maguire gave us a great Peter Parker and Garfield delivered on Spider-Man, Holland gave us the best of both and we finally got our Spidey in the greater Marvel universe. Number 4. Spider-Man 2. Admittedly, I may have this lower on my list than most, but it's only because of my love for so many of these movies. Spider-Man 2 is a classic. It's one of the best superhero movies ever, and it is loaded with great performances. Once again, Maguire shines as Peter Parker, but Alfred Molina's portrayal of Dr. Octopus, one of the most iconic comic book villains of all time, was one for the ages. It was also one of the first to give us the now cliché superhero losing their powers story, and it did it very well. Plus, it gave us the unforgettable train save sequence, so more points there. Number 3. Spider-Man Far From Home. Amazingly, the MCU's Spider-Man franchise managed to get even better with its first sequel. Far From Home delivered some of the best comedy we've seen in the MCU, while also tackling the heavy subject of grief after Peter lost Tony Stark. It also gave us Mysterio, a villain many thought would never really translate well to the big screen, being that his powers were really just illusions. Jake Gyllenhaal knocked it out of the park though, as this character is now one of the best MCU villains to date. Plus, we got a whole lot of exciting stuff from the mid- and post-credit scenes, including Skrulls, the reveal of Spider-Man's identity, and the return of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Number 2. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You can probably find Into the Spider-Verse in any position on someone's list, or perhaps not even on it at all, depending on how that person feels about animation. Regardless of that though, the fact remains that this is an excellent movie. Into the Spider-Verse is perfectly balanced, with humor and life lessons, and it puts the spotlight on Miles Morales, now a wildly popular character. It's also both loaded with Easter eggs for hardcore Marvel fans, and completely accessible to anyone who wants to jump into this world for the first time. The star-studded cast really delivers some memorable performances as some previously less than memorable characters, like Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham. Now those are household names because of the massive success of this film, and fans everywhere are anxiously awaiting the sequel, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Part 1. Number 1, Spider-Man No Way Home. And there it is. Sure, on its own, No Way Home doesn't quite have the same impact, but that's not the point. The point of this movie is that it's a culmination of 20 years of Spider-Man movies, allowing fans to celebrate the recent history of this iconic character, and it achieves this in a beautiful way. This film gave us a theatrical experience unlike anything we've ever seen, perhaps excluding Avengers Endgame. It manages to successfully tell the stories of all three Spider-Men, both rewarding longtime fans with closure on the first two, and introducing new fans in limited time. We also get the return of all of our favorite villains, headlined by Willem Dafoe, who takes his performance as Norman Osborn to a whole new level. We also know this is an incredibly important step for the MCU as a whole, which will now be plunged into the multiverse. The impact of this film, both on the franchise moving forward and on all the fans who will never forget the first time they saw it, is immeasurable, and that's why it tops my list. So, that's my ranking of the 9 Spider-Man films. Let us know what you think in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Of course, you can also head to laughingplace.com for more rankings, as well as all your latest Disney news. Thanks everyone!